Welcome to part two of this special podcast and video section that I'm doing on the Bodmin Town Framework. And this section is all about the strategic aims, vision, and objectives and targets that is set out in this plan. It's quite a short section, but there's a lot of me with lots of ideas and stuff about these aims and objectives that they are setting out. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something from it. And the next two parts are probably going to be a lot more in depth with a lot more information. So if you're still following along, that's brilliant. And I think the next two bits will be where most of the meat of this document is going to be. So thank you very much for listening and watching, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. When defining the vision for Bodmin, the starting point is to recognise the overall vision for Cornwall, which is stated in the Sustainable Community Strategy Future Cornwall. Cornwall in 2030 will be an industry leader in environmental technologies, land and marine, and at the centre of a global network of businesses. It will combine internationally recognised research with skills in environmental technologies across the workforce. In supporting these aspirations, Bodmin's vision is to be a sustainable and vibrant community which is recognised as the food capital of Cornwall. Interesting. I find this very, very interesting, being the food capital of Cornwall. I think there's a legitimate basis for that in many ways, in the fact that there are a lot of food businesses and especially manufacturing businesses in Bodmin, so that does make a lot of sense. The only problem I've got with this, I know this only came out in March 2017, but there's not a lot of talk about this. And if it's going to be the food capital of Cornwall, we need to make it easier for restaurants to survive and things like that, and make it accessible for farmers markets, for example. And if you're gonna be the food capital of Cornwall, then supermarkets aren't helping that. If you want it to be like the known place for food in Cornwall, and Cornwall's food industry is such a massive part of Cornwall's economics and identity, then we need to make it harder for supermarkets to put up shop here, because that's not going to help at all. The fact is, supermarkets suck money from towns. It just goes, all the money you spend in a supermarket goes straight to London, Germany. If you shop at Asda, it's going to America at the moment until this Sainsbury's deal sort of comes through, which could actually work in our favour in some ways, because it might be one less supermarket, because they're not going to want a Sainsbury's and an Asda, or two Sainsbury's, or however it is they're going to work it. But we could do with, then, maybe if that was the case, say if Sainsbury's decides to stop, then maybe we could look into acquiring that in some form and creating I've always wanted to see like a Cornwall supermarket in some fashion, and I think where they literally just sell Cornish produce. So everybody that is selling sausages from around the county, everybody that is creating any, growing fruit and veg, all can be sold in this one shop. And by doing that, you create the convenience that supermarkets offer, but you're providing Cornish produce. And that way, that as well, if you've got it all in that one place, and that supermarket then is providing all these good quality local products, then you can actually bring the price down, because those products can, make money off each other. You're making money on those sausages, but you're also making the money as the supermarket, just like any other supermarket does. And people would actually then come to Bodmin to go to this awesome Cornish produce shop. But it needs to be run in a way that is competitive against supermarkets. You can't you can't make it work in a way where it's open 9 till 5, because that isn't what the supermarkets are offering. They're not offering They're as is open 24 hours a day. Like, you need to compete with that. You need to be open 8 till 8 at a minimum. Like, that needs to happen, and for that sort of idea to work. And I think that idea would work. It's just someone needs to put it in place, and I'm not the person to do that. But that's the idea. Someone do it. I'm quite happy to help in some way, promoting it. So it goes on then to say, for Bodmin to achieve this vision, there are various strategic objectives which have been articulated within Cornwall Council's local plan, which are: number 1, housing, create a better balance between the amount of housing and jobs and enable the delivery of affordable housing. Objective 2, travel, address the traffic congestion that leads to the air quality issues in the town centre and promote walking and cycling links to Lan Hydrock. I would add in there that you need to try and promote that down to Cardinnham too, because they're not that far away from each other really, especially if you're on a bike, and they've both got cycle parts related to them. So I think it should be extended to that as well. Objective 3, employment, promote better quality jobs to create a more balanced economy. Objective 4, services and facilities, to expand Bodmin Town Centre to help to retain a greater level of comparison shopping trips. Maintain and enhance local shops, facilities and services with the aim of providing for local communities. This one's interesting. They want to expand the town centre, and if later on we'll look into sort of a few ideas that they've put forward in this framework. And to a point, it's difficult. Bodmin Town Centre is very linear, very long. It's not very square. It's very difficult. The ideas that what I get from this is that they kind of almost want to make it like how St Austell is, where they've got White River Place in one section, and then they've got the town centre that goes sort of like adjacent or off it. Do you know what I mean? So personally, I think we should move away from making the town centre a retail-focused outlet and a more visitor, social, interesting and vibrant place to go, rather than it just being shops, because shops, just as time goes on even further, shops are just going to get less and less. Today I heard Mothercare are shutting 50 odd stores. You know, these shops aren't going to be able to survive in this day of the internet. Like, you're not going to be able to compete. You're just not. I mean, I work for a delivery company. Every year we grow year on year. This year's actually gone a bit stagnant, but I think that's more down to Brexit. Like, it's not. That can't be the focus. Local shops need to be the secondary purpose to the town centre now. And by creating a town centre that is inviting and socially pleasant, then by doing that, that's when you'll be able to have the shops that are there thrive. They'll do better in that way, instead of it being, if you expand the town and create another little section that's like White River Place, for example, you'll invite a load of shops, probably be bigger chain shops, especially with a growing population. But what's the point? What's the point in inviting more bigger chain shops into the town, which is going to create half a dozen jobs for each shop, maybe a dozen? Great, a dozen jobs, but that's not going to create any wealth for anyone. All the money that Bodmin is going to be spending is all going to be going out of the county. That's not going to be better. That's not going to work for us. We need to invite restaurants in. We need to invite. I think we need to look into sort of creative and arts projects. I know that I done a piece on the Inter Bodmin Community Interest Company, and I think that is something that we should look into. So maybe look into shops that offer, say, music or art things, but where they can have workshops happening, or where people can come in and just do stuff, like especially for older people, like a place, literally like a place where people can sit down, have a coffee and do knitting together. Like, just pop in £3. All the walls provided for whatever. Or, you pay for your wall and your coffee. You come and sit down. Things like that would make a lot of money, because older people want places to gather. They want places to talk to one another. They don't want to be stuck in their houses. But they haven't got anywhere to really go and meet. That's why they all have like coffee mornings and stuff. But you need things where they can do something too, and I think that's something that would be worth looking into. Objective 5, environment. Ensure development is sensitive to the natural built and historic environment of the area. Objective 6, infrastructure. Investigate the need for new road infrastructure to address congestion and air quality issues to allow continued growth of Bodmin. Support drainage infrastructure and promote ICT infrastructure. Lots of infrastructure. And obviously infrastructure is going to be quite important if the population is going to grow to what they are suggesting. Inequalities. Address deprivation in education, training, skills and health, as well as issues relating to disability. Yeah, it's interesting. Not quite sure how they're going to do that. Maybe I need to look into that. So their aims, and there's like a little, if you're listening, there's like a chart here. And they've got 10 key aims. 1, improving the town centre. 2, improving the tourism offer. 3, improving the quality of jobs. 4, improving training and education. 5, improving air quality in the town centre. 6, improving potential sustainable energy. 7, improving access to affordable housing. 8, improving arrival into the town. 9, improving access to green space. And 10, improving public transport. I'm interested to see why they've put number 1 as improving the town centre. I get that. I mean, obviously it's important, but if they're going to focus on retail, then it's just not going to improve. It won't grow. It just won't grow. There'll be, you could easily just put up a new load of shop buildings, but it's just going to increase the amount of shops that are going in and out of occupancy. These shops don't survive now. They won't survive just because you put up more. I just don't see it happening. Even if you made it accessible to, say, a massive store, I don't know, you look at Truro, say, I don't know, Primark, or M&S, or shops like these that people want to sort of go to, they're just going to go to that shop. They'll go to that shop and they might pop into the shop across the road. There's no point. If you look at Cornwall as a whole now, all these shops are already in Truro. There's no point. You don't need to go into Bodmin to go to these shops. They're there in Truro. And Truro's got that town, old school retail town centre thing going for it. And why do that in all the other towns? If we want to become the food hub for Cornwall, then that should be improving the town centre and making it accessible for restaurants. Like, for example, the best way to do that is have hugely discounted business rates for restaurants and cafes. Straight away, bam, you will have, pop restaurants and stuff pop up everywhere. So the last little bit here for this part is the Cornwall Local Plan Strategic Policies document has set the following targets for Bodmin: to develop 3,100 dwellings between 2010 and 2030, to deliver at least 22,000 and to deliver at least 23,000 square metres of additional office space and pretty much 25,000 square metres of industrial space between 2010 and 2030. The last little bit here, the local plan has also set a target of delivering a further 100 dwellings within the wider Bodmin Community Network area. Whilst this falls outside the area covered by the Bodmin Town Framework, it is recognised later in the document when considering Bodmin's role as a service centre for its wider hinterland, whatever that I'm not quite sure what that word means. Someone pop that in the comments and let me know, please. Okay, so then it goes on to part 3, the spatial strategy, and then later on, as you can see, that is all the spatial strategy. So what we'll do is we'll do another episode or another part on the spatial strategy, and then we'll look into part 4, which will be part 3 of this little mini series and of infrastructure, because these are much bigger sections. So thank you very much for listening, and keep an eye out. And what I'll do is I'll put the links to these in the show notes and descriptions so that you can find them yourself and have a little look through. So yeah, come back next time to find out more about the spatial strategy of Bodmin. Cheers.